Yes, yes,
Something happened, baby, in my life. The minute I saw you, all the others faded from my life. The minute I saw you, hey, nothing mattered, baby, in my life. The minute I saw you, all the others faded from my life. The minute I saw you.
New next Saturday, starring Angela Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote. Jessica Fletcher stalks a killer in the first story of a new series.
Jealousy. He kills off her bows.
The truth is, he scares me.
Murder, mystery, suspense. Angela Lansbury in a new series of Murder, She Wrote, starting next Saturday at 8:05.
Next night, we join the studios of ITN for the national and world news.
What am I bid? 1, 2, 3. 3? 3. 1, 2, 3.
Fantasia's final performance is about to end. Disney will take its last orders on February the 28th, so hurry, it won't be in stores long. Now's your last chance to own Walt Disney's Fantasia.
There is a food made in plants from the sun's rays, which has grown on Earth for 100 million years. It's a pure source of food energy. Its taste tells us when something is ripe. It forms part of the natural diet of virtually every creature, from the smallest to the greatest. It's one of the fuels for life itself. In what form do we know this food best? Sugar.
In tomorrow's Sunday Mirror, Guilty. Now we reveal more secrets of Mike Tyson's amazing private life. Buy the Sunday Mirror tomorrow.
It's the riches and the ruffles that causes the kerfuffles.
Where were you in '63, she said, when President Kennedy was assassinated? She tries to blame me for everything. I had an alibi, I said. My chum Rory came round and asked if I wanted to go barn dancing. Only if they've got legs like whippets, I said. Heady days. I just had my first experience with Swinton Insurance. You know, they now deal with more motor insurance companies than anyone else. In those days, everybody was talking about free love and hallucinations. I quite like the Blackpool hallucinations myself, but I wouldn't keep going on about them.
Collect the vouchers at participating Shell stations, and you can now choose from an exciting range of travel games. They'll make your journey fly by.
If you thought that You've Been Framed had come to an end this series, then you'd be wrong. Last week, Peter won the hearts of the Larkins. Now,
Charlie says the only way Peter can stay here and be allowed to work is if he marries an English girl.
the darling buds of May. Then, May Gray.
Was there or was there not a body? If there was a body, where is it now?
Michael Gambon stars on Sunday.
Join me tonight when my guest will be Mick Hucknall from Simply Red, that gentle broadcaster Danny Baker, and the pride of Britain's finest acting dynasty, Vanessa Redgrave.
This is London Weekend Television, part of the ITV network.
The news from ITN.
Kidnapper tells how he wept as he let Stephanie go. 3 Israeli soldiers hacked to death, peace talks threatened. Report says water industry may have been $2 billion too cheap. And French players banned as England go for the Grand Slam. Good evening. The kidnapper of estate agent Stephanie Slater has told police there were tears streaming down his face when he told his victim she was being set free. The new revelations came after detectives released more extracts from the letter he sent them. Psychologists say it reveals the mind of a psychopath.
Stephanie Slater returned to the bosom of her family a week ago after detectives completed their debriefing. Yet even she is only now discovering what her kidnapper claims happened in the final stages of her ordeal. 10 days ago, the kidnapper wrote a lengthy letter to police, apologizing for what he'd done and claiming he was not the killer of Leeds teenager Julie Dart. Detectives who've studied the text carefully are still withholding some of the letter's contents for operational reasons, but tonight they made public further extracts. In one section, the kidnapper says, "I promised and gave my word to Stephanie that I'd not killed before, and that provided she did not remove her blindfold, she would be released." He claims that when he told her she was about to be freed unharmed, they both cried. Fortunately, he wrote, "She had her blindfold on and could not see my tears for her streaming down my face." Stephanie was eventually dropped off in a side street near her home. According to the kidnapper, he took the risk of being caught because Stephanie had told him of the love she had for her family. The man who got away with £175,000 also reveals that from an early stage, he was convinced that his telephone calls to courier Kevin Watts were being listened to by police. Tonight, psychologists studied the letter. They pronounced that the man was without a doubt a psychopath.
He's trying to cope with the fact that his clever plans have damaged another human being. He thought he could cope with that, and he can only partially do so. So he's trying to excuse himself whilst also boasting about his skills.
Detectives too are cynical. They remain convinced the kidnapper and the killer of Julie Dart is the same person. Other senior officers doubt the sincerity of the sentiments in the letter. They warn he may well strike again before he's caught. Terry Lloyd, ITN, Birmingham.
Government sources said tonight that ministers have now agreed to give compensation to health service patients infected with HIV through blood transfusions. Compensation is already available for haemophiliacs, but the government has so far refused to extend the scheme to other sufferers. Sources indicated tonight that an announcement would be made in the Commons next week. Israel's defense minister hinted tonight that the murder of 3 soldiers by Arabs in the north of the country could affect Middle East peace talks. 3 Arabs armed with knives and axes broke into an army camp near Haifa and attacked the men in their sleep.
Tonight it's being described as the most serious and most ruthless attack on the Israeli army since the beginning of the Palestinian uprising 4 years ago. Late last night, Arab guerrillas slipped under the cover of darkness into this lightly defended army camp and using axes, knives and a pitchfork killed 3 soldiers and wounded another. 2 of the dead were Russian Jews who had recently emigrated to Israel. The attack has caused outrage in Israel, not only because it occurred on the Sabbath and was particularly savage, but also because it took place in Israel's heartland and not in the disputed territories of the West Bank. It will further damage prospects for the Middle East peace talks, which have already virtually ground to a halt.
The PLO is not opting for peace. As Israel is speaking peace with the Arab delegations, The PLO is speaking and acting war, terror, and violence.
We have to end the state of occupation. We have to create a situation whereby genuine peace can be achieved in order to eliminate the causes of violence and put an end to this whole cycle.
A massive search has been underway all day. But tonight, 24 hours after the incident, the terrorists have still not been caught. Robert Moore, ITN, the Middle East.
A report published today by the National Audit Office suggests the government sale of the water industry raised £2 billion less than originally expected. It says the sale did create 10 successful companies, but it may have suffered from being rushed.
Water privatisation did pose difficult problems, the report concedes, but it also criticises the way the government carried out the sell-off. Although the report uses diplomatic language, it suggests the government was in too much of a hurry to complete the sale because the Treasury needed the money. The government denies that.
We were anxious to get water privatisation through because we were so keen to get the rising levels of investment and environmental enhancement that privatisation has produced.
When we realised that the taxpayer has had to pay billions of pounds in order for the government to carry out its dogmatic approach, I think we can all be very angry indeed.
The shares have proved a good buy for the investor. From an initial flotation price of 240 pence, the share prices of the 10 water companies now average £3.70. The report will be examined in greater detail later this month when members of the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee will be asking civil servants whether the water companies really were sold off too cheaply.
Two new opinion polls suggest a decline in support for both the Conservative and Labour parties, but increased backing for the Liberal Democrats. A Harris poll in tomorrow's Observer puts Labour on 40% and the Conservatives on 39%, both down 3%. The Liberal Democrats are on 15%, up 2%. And an ICM poll for the Sunday Express puts Labour down 3% on 39%, the Conservatives on 40%, down 1%, and the Liberal Democrats on 16%, up 2%.
The Tories' election cheerleader, Michael Heseltine, set out to rally the troops after a week of predominantly gloomy economic news. With neither party able to establish a decisive lead in the opinion polls, he warned them to keep their nerve in what he said would be the toughest election campaign for decades.
Let us fight for Britain's future. Let us spell out the arguments and let us trust the people. The challenge, yes, it is dramatic, but our way, the opportunities for Britain tomorrow are huge and must be achieved.
Sensing an advantage after last week, Mr Kinnock pressed home Labour's attack on the government's economic management. He said many parts of the British economy were still crumbling. And in a statement issued today, he went on, "This government has not learned from the damage it has inflicted on Britain, and it will not take action to stop the rot." And the Liberal Democrats, who've seen a slow but steady increase in their support, added their voice to the criticism, saying the Tories must take the blame for the recession.
As every day goes by, it is becoming more and more clear that the Conservatives have mismanaged, miscalculated, misjudged our economy.
And the reason the campaign is being so closely fought is that both the parties are genuinely neck and neck. The margin of error of the opinion polls, which is 3%, is bigger than the lead that either of the main parties can claim at the moment. Mark Webster, ITN, Westminster.
In America, the man who was the early front-runner for the Democratic presidential nomination is now desperately trying to salvage his campaign. Bill Clinton is giving away 20,000 videos to households in New Hampshire before Tuesday's primary. President Bush, who's also sliding in the polls, has come under fierce attack from his right-wing Republican rival, Pat Buchanan.
Bill Clinton is fighting for his political life, his popularity waning, his campaign frenzied.
I'll never forget who gave me a second chance, and I'll be there for you till the last dog dies.
Weakened by doubts about his patriotism and fidelity, he gave away 20,000 videos today to highlight his record and bought an hour of primetime television to sway a sceptical electorate. Forging ahead behind birthday flowers, Paul Tsongas, promising harsh economic medicine and much more.
I think on Tuesday we're going to change this party forever. And all the old nonsense, all the old rhetoric is going to go by the boards.
For many, none of the Democrats impress. They want voters to write Governor Mario Cuomo's name onto the ballot and into the running.
We are going absolutely down the wrong road.
The same message is winning Republican votes for right-winger Pat Buchanan, who predicted today he'd beat President Bush and take the New Hampshire nomination. Voters here are angry at the president over the economy. He brought Terminator Arnold Schwarzenegger with him today to back his case.
At the same time, send a message to Pat Buchanan. Hasta la vista, baby.
But many do want to show their anger. George Bush has 2 days to shore up his support and avoid embarrassment. Bill Neely, ITN, Manchester, New Hampshire.
Now, news of today's sport, here's Graham Miller.
2 French forwards were banned from playing tonight for 7 months after being sent off during a bad-tempered Five Nations clash with England in Paris. They were dismissed as England stormed towards their second successive Grand Slam with a comprehensive victory.
England came prepared for a battle, but even they could hardly have predicted what lay ahead. The French at first looking disciplined and determined. A try from Villar giving them an early lead. But the England pack settled, and suddenly the French were going backwards. The penalty try given as they collapsed the scrum near the line. Now England were free to run the game, Webb carving his way through a defence which was beginning to disintegrate. And deep into the second half, the game turned into a French farce as players crashed into each other. England gratefully picking up the loose ball and sending Underwood in under the posts for one of his easiest scores. Now the French went to pieces completely. First Lascoube sent off for kicking, and then Moscato joining him in the dressing room for fighting. It was a disgraceful finale for the French. England's victory overshadowed by violence.
The heads just went. I've never known the French side really fall to pieces like that in the second half, as they did.
It's just sad, I think, when a game ends up like that, when we came here and we played hard and we knew we were getting a hard game, but it spoils the game.
I can't think of many referees that would have had the guts to do what he did today. It wasn't popular, and I realise why it wasn't popular. Having said that, it was deserved.
It's a game that'll go down in rugby history for all the wrong reasons, but England survived the battle. Now only Wales stand in the way of a second consecutive Grand Slam. Peter Staunton, ITN Sport, Paris.
The game at Lansdowne Road was cleaner and closer, though Scotland did deserve their first win of a championship. Their backs combining well for Tony Stanger to score in the corner. Andy Nicol, Scotland's 20-year-old scrum half, had an outstanding second international, starting this movement and then somehow ending up on the right wing to outpace the Irish cover. The young man clearly delighted by his first try. A typically spirited Irish second-half comeback was handicapped by Ralph Keane, pulling 3 penalties in succession. But the Irish did finally produce a fine individual score. Right wing Richard Wallace going outside, then in, before stretching for the line.
The 5th round of the FA Cup produced no real shocks today, other than one of the quickest bookings in football history. It took Chelsea's Vinnie Jones barely 5 seconds to hack down Sheffield United's Dane Whitehouse, earning himself a yellow card. Some quality play, though, by the Chelsea youngster Graham Stewart put the Londoners into the quarter-finals. It was his first goal of the season. In the league, Arsenal enjoyed their biggest win under George Graham with a 7-1 thrashing of Sheffield Wednesday. Substitute Kevin Campbell fired them up with a couple as Arsenal scored 6 in the last 19 minutes. In the second division's top match, Kenny Dalglish beat the still smiling Kevin Keegan, but not before Newcastle had taken the lead through David Kelly. David Speedy, though, was the hero for leaders Blackburn with a hat-trick. A volley secured the equaliser. But what about this diving header to put Blackburn in front? And a close-range shot brought his third. But the hero turned villain with a gesture to the home fans that could land him in trouble with the FA. The Highland League's Inverness Caledonian held Premier Division St Johnstone in the 4th round of the Scottish Cup. They fought back from 2 goals down to 2-2. Alexei Mikhailichenko kept Rangers' double hopes alive with 2 late goals to knock out the cup holders Motherwell. Britain's 2-man bobsleigh team go into tomorrow's final round at the Winter Olympics with a sniff of a chance of a gold medal. Driver Mark Tout and brakeman Lenny Paul produced a scintillating first run for the lead. Their second attempt, though, only the 8th best, leaving them with an overall lead of 0.03 of a second. The double world sprint champion Katrin Krabbe has been banned for 4 years after being found guilty of doping by the German Athletics Federation. Krabbe, with 2 other leading German athletes, starts an immediate suspension after illegally tampering with urine samples during testing in South Africa last month. Alan Lamb is doubtful for the Cricket World Cup after pulling a hamstring in England's victory over New Zealand. It marred an easy win in the final one-day international by 71 runs at Christchurch. Ian Botham set up the victory with a typical assault on the opposition. He justified the decision to put him in as opener with a succession of blows, taking him to 79 and the Man of the Match award.
And that's all from ITN for the moment, from Graham and myself and the rest of the newsroom. Good evening.
Why aren't Labour doing better? I'll be interviewing Roy Hattersley, the party's deputy leader, this Sunday at 1:10 on ITV.
Good evening. Well, more rather cold and rather windy weather to come for most of the country. Here's what's happening. These westerly winds quite brisk across the country. That'll bring this little front south, causing problems with snow, particularly for Scotland tonight. Then behind me here there's another area of low pressure, and as that sweeps towards us later tomorrow, you find some rain turning up in Northern Ireland. But there's that band of sort of cloud and outbreaks of rain with sleet and snow, particularly on the mountains. To the south, though, you'll find a few showers around the coast, but central parts with clearing skies, you're likely to find a touch of frost by the morning. But it's this band we really have to watch through tomorrow. Through the morning, crossing over southern Scotland, getting down towards all the Pennines there, and as they get across the hills, turning to sleet and snow again. Further south, though, not too bad a start to the day, fine and bright, much like today. And you'll find these showers beginning to work their way steadily down, particularly down that eastern side during the afternoon and into the evening. To the north, well, bright spells and showers about sums it up, and particularly where you're exposed to the northerly winds, quite a bit of showers and those showers falling as snow. And then, as we said, late in the day, the first signs of that cloud and rain beginning to work its way up across Ireland. Now, a cold day generally, average temperatures, well, 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, but with a brisk wind across most of the country, it's going to feel fairly chilly. That's it from me for tonight. A very good night to you.
Next tonight, Aspel and Company, who are Simply Red, Vanessa Redgrave and Danny Baker.
Who says you can't have beautiful hair every day? New Enriched Finesse conditioner is controlled by time. A few seconds for light conditioning, a few minutes for deep. You control the amount of conditioning that's right for your hair. Sometimes you need a little finesse, sometimes you need a lot less.
Le jour et la nuit, j'attendrai toujours ton retour. J'attendrai.
Under the P&O colours, the continent comes over to meet you.
Viens chercher l'oubli.
Don't just get across, cruise across. With P&O European ferries.
Hurry, your last chance to get down to Britain's biggest furniture sale with offers throughout the store. Must end February 26th.
Cupid, draw back your bow and let your arrow flow straight to my lover's heart. For me, no, nobody else but me. Hey, 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 Cupid.
With its sparkling performance and handling, the Citroën AX will always find a way to your heart. The Citroën AX.
I've learned all I know about love from the women in my life. my daughters, my wife, my mother. But it took a woman I hardly knew.
You've met somebody in New York, haven't you?
To help me face my past, to bring me back to life.
Barbara Streisand.
Let's just be friends.
Nick Nolte.
Very good friends.
The Prince of Tides.
Getting a bit chilly. We better get back now.
Don't want young Collins to catch his death. Typical.
What?
You've broken the key in the door.
I know I've broken the key in the door. I've got eyes. Look, don't go flying into one of your squawking rages. Squawking rage.
Squawking rages?
Sometimes things go wrong.
If you need something fixed in a hurry, call Talking Pages. We'll help you find the service you want wherever you are.
You'd only just shut up for a moment.
Ah, hello, Talking Pages. I wonder if you could help.
There are 3 locksmiths who have a call-out service near you.
Hey, that car service isn't going to stop the key from breaking. Where have you come from?
I think your son organised it.
Bring him in, boy!
Oh, Colin, you're so precocious.
I'm 52 years old, Mother, and I'm a High Court judge.
Call Talking Pages on 071 600 9000 and we'll do the searching for you.
Good evening. Today's almost been like a sneak preview of the springtime with all that sunshine around. I hope it won't be too long before the real thing's with us. Tonight will be dry and clear with a brisk westerly wind, and it'll be cold too, with temperatures falling to around freezing in places and the chance of icy patches on untreated roads. Sunday will then start dry with a good deal of sunshine, which will quickly melt away any remaining frost. Cloud will tend to increase during the afternoon, and a few showers are possible, particularly in Essex and Kent. Another chilly day, temperatures around 8 or 9 Celsius, with a brisk west to northwesterly wind. Monday looks dry, bright and frosty, although through the afternoon, thickening cloud will bring outbreaks of rain to the region. That's all from me. I'll leave you with a summary. A very good night to you.
When Mr. Bean first appeared on television, he won the Golden Rose of Montreux Award. Since then, he's continued to go from strength to strength. His last outing attracted an audience of almost 19 million people, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. Now the inimitable Mr. Bean rides again, whether enjoying the in-flight entertainment or simply giving a helping hand. It's bound to end in disaster. So don't miss his next hilarious collection of capers, Monday at 8 on ITV.
You're watching London Weekend Television. Now, Aspel and Company.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Hope you've had an excellent week, and I hope your Valentine took the hint. By happy coincidence, today is the 110th anniversary of the birth of that great heartthrob of stage and early screen, John Barrymore, described in his day as the world's greatest actor and a member of a theatrical dynasty.